What are your 10 favourite novels? Can you answer that question? It's a ridiculous question really, isn't it? Can we really name our 10 favourite novels? Why stop at 10? We could keep going. But how do we quantify these things? It's very tough, but in this video, I will share 10 of my favourite novels, yeah? I'm sure my answer would change on a different day. But for this, the 50th episode of my series Good Art, Bad Art, I wanted to get back into literature. Because for you long-time viewers, you will know that generally I focus on music in these episodes. I take songs, compositions, albums, and try to figure out if they're good art or bad art. But every 10 episodes, I get into my other love outside of music, which is literature. So here we go. I'm going to spend just a single minute on each of these 10 novels which I adore. And please let me know your favourite novels in the comments. I'd love that. Okay, here we go. Number 1. These are in no particular order, by the way. Lolita. Perhaps not a surprise to viewers of this channel. I've talked about Lolita before. Isn't it just an incredible novel by one of the most masterful prose stylists I think the world has ever produced, Vladimir Nabokov. It was the novel that launched him into worldwide stardom and fame and riches, But yes, it's very provocative. Of course, you must know what it's about. A middle-aged professor, Humbert, pursues this 12-year-old girl, Lolita, Dolores Hayes, to give her a full name. And it's tragic. It manages to be tragic, hilariously funny, deeply moving, deeply unsettling. And as Martin Amis says, he says something like, Nabokov's prose is the closest thing to pure sensual pleasure that we can get in a book. Anyway, on to the next. Number 2, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. Joyce, one of my top 3 authors. I do have 3 top authors, I would say. Nabokov, Joyce, and Borges. Anyway, Joyce, this is his first novel, his second book. He did double in his first short story collection. But yes, it takes us through the first 18 years or so of the life of Stephen Dedalus, a precocious intellectual young man, and he deals with his battles with religion, with sex, with growing up, essentially. And the novel matures as Stephen matures. If I can just read the first few sentences, it starts off, as a baby would talk and as a young child would think. Once upon a time, and a very good time it was, there was a moo cow coming down along the road, and this moo cow that was coming down along the road met a nice little boy named Baby Tuckoo. It starts like that, and by the end of it, you get into these deep intellectual concerns that all precocious, 16 or 18-year-olds battle with. Anyway, on we go. Number 3, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. Isn't this just incredible? I mean, the story of Anna and Vronsky's relationship, and then Levin and Kitty. It's just such an incredible psychological exploration of love and humanity, essentially. And I think it was William Faulkner who was asked, "Can you name your 3 favourite novels?" And he said, "Yes, of course. Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina." So as simple as that. Read this. I rate this higher than War and Peace even. So there we go. And we named our second child Anna, partially after Anna Karenina. Next, another Russian. In fact, I have 5 Russian novels on this list. What does that say about me? I don't know. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Again, psychological. Wow. The insight into this guy Raskolnikov, this young, poor student, wonders, can he murder a horrible old woman and get her money because she doesn't need it? No one's going to miss her. Why can't he benefit from her money when she's doing nothing with it and no one even likes her anyway? Wow. Yeah, it's dark, it's disturbing, and it's... I find, like almost no one else, Dostoevsky can capture just the absurdity of being human, and we're not clear-cut characters. We change our minds. One day we think this, the next day we think that, and that's what Raskolnikov goes through. An incredible novel, Crime and Punishment. Next, The Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. Just hilarious and absurd and such a unique story. I can't really describe it in a minute, but half of it is about how this character, Voland, who's sort of the devil, comes to Moscow and interferes with people's lives there in hilarious ways and unsettling ways. You've got a whole cast of characters there in Moscow. But then the other side of the story is set at the time of Jesus, and it tells of the story of Jesus, Pontius Pilate, all that stuff. It goes back and forth between the two. Absolutely incredible. And it has a talking cat called Behemoth. What more can I say? If you want to read about a talking cat, the historical character of Jesus, and the devil in Moscow, read The Master and Margarita. Next, a novel by a Chilean author, 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. I read this probably, when would it have been? 15 years ago, roughly, on a road trip around America. With some friends, we were covering hundreds and hundreds of miles each day, and I devoured this huge book. Look at it, it's massive. I devoured it in something like 3 or 4 days because I had so many hours to read each day. And I'm sure some of you will agree that when you do read a great novel in such a short time frame, the effect can be profound. I remember from that point on, for several years, I said it was my favourite novel. So much time has passed now, and I haven't reread it. I will reread it, but honestly, I've forgotten that feeling I had when I read it. But I remember it being incredibly profound, disturbing, because there's so many murders in it. There's lots of murders of young women that keep piling up. But then there's a whole artistic angle, literary angle with these professors. Anyway, it's like nothing else. His last novel, published posthumously. Check it out. Then we move on to Moby-Dick. Moby-Dick. Yeah, lots of these novels, lots of my choices I feel are quite unusual, or, they feature structural elements that are quite unusual. The digressions in this put a lot of people off. The huge digressions about whaling. Yes, you've got the story of Ishmael and of Captain Ahab and all of that, but digression after digression into the history of whaling, into, the anatomy of whales. But I find it all absolutely fascinating. And Melville just has such a apocalyptic Shakespearean style in this book. I've read it, I think, twice now, but it's one of these books I think I'll read probably every 10 years or so. Moby-Dick. 3 to go. Remember, these are not in order. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this to 1 minute each. My second Nabokov. Yes, I've chosen two Nabokovs. Pale Fire. Many people rate this higher than Lolita. I don't know, they're so different. But again, a unique structural element. Starts with a poem, a 999-line poem apparently by John Shade. And then the rest of the book is a commentary on the poem by Shade's colleague, Charles Kinbote. And it's just, this commentary reveals more about the commentator, perhaps, than it does about the poem. Anyway, it's just typical Nabokov in a way. The prose is just outstanding. Every sentence you want to linger on. It's just joy. It's a joy to read. It's very funny and just very literary. If you love books and you can spend time with a book, Pale Fire. Read it a few times. It deserves multiple readings, as do many of these books. 2 to go. Not War and Peace, but War and War by László Krasznahorkai. I think, as Susan Sontag called him, the contemporary Hungarian master of the apocalypse, something like that. Anyway, if you haven't read him, he's a very unsettling author. He often writes for page after page after page without full stops. Some of his novels, practically there's no punctuation. This one does have some punctuation, but still very, very, very long sentences. Listen to this quote on the back. Profoundly unsettling. By the end of the novel, I felt I had got as close as literature could possibly take me to the inhabiting of another person. And I find that to be true. You get inside his characters' minds. Very briefly, this guy, the main character, is suicidal, but he finds this manuscript, this incredible book. He wants to type it up and get it on the internet before he dies. And he does so, and there's even a hyperlink at the end of this book. It says, go visit this hyperlink. I won't tell you what happens when you visit the hyperlink, but it adds to the story. Finally, how could I not include my all-time favourite book, Ulysses? You know, again, I've made a video or two about Ulysses before, so maybe it's no surprise, but isn't it just the book of books? Joyce packs everything into this book. If there's one book I could only have for the rest of my life, hands down, no question, it would be Ulysses. If you've tried it and been put off, just try again and stick with it. I was put off. I thought it was just kind of crazy and I didn't get it at first. But like many of the best things in life, they reward hard work, yeah? And the hard work turns into absolute pleasure. So there we go. 10 of my favourite novels. Please share yours. And please do subscribe if you've enjoyed this. I'm Greg Harradine. Keep reading, keep listening to good music, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.